Hello, my name is Andrew Lumpy. I was part of 3 network churches for 17 years. I want to speak a bit about my personal experiences, the leadership systems, and the lack of accountability in these churches that are part of a group called the Network. First, a little bit about me. My wife, Torrey, and I began attending Vineyard churches starting in 1991. In 2002, we became part of a church called Vineyard Community Church in Carbondale, Illinois, which at the time was part of the Vineyard Association of Churches. Given our history in the Vineyard, it was natural for us to become involved with Vine Church. We assumed it was a safe place. We quickly got involved and built a relationship with lead pastor Steve Morgan and his family. In 2004, we were part of the Blue Sky Church plant team that went to Seattle, Washington. At Blue Sky, I served as vice president of the board of elders, which are called overseers of the network, and as a non-staff discipleship community pastor. Steve Morgan eventually pulled his churches out of the Vineyard Association in 2007 and started his own no-name network of churches, as he was fond to call it. In 2016, Torrey and I moved to San Luis Obispo, California as part of the Vista Church plant team. Except for a few brief breaks, I also served as a small group leader since 2004. Torrey also served as a bookkeeper for Blue Sky Church, and her work also included managing the network funds. While serving as an elder, I had found out that years prior, while serving as a church youth pastor, Steve Morgan was arrested for abusing a 15-year-old boy who was a member of the church youth group he was leading. Morgan was reported to the local authorities. He was arrested. He was fired from his youth pastor job, and he eventually signed a deal with the prosecutor to avoid going to court. I eventually sought counsel from Christian leaders, theologians, pastors, and legal experts outside the network as I wondered about the ramifications of Morgan's background on his current pastoral role. All of these people expressed grave concern. They said leaders needed to know and act, and they stated that an independent investigation was needed. In 2019, I confronted network leaders about Morgan's criminal background. The network leaders told me that they already knew about his background. They said they did not believe it had any bearing on his serving as a pastor. They would not be taking any action, and they would not engage with outside experts. They also refused to initiate an investigation. It was after this experience that Torrey and I decided we needed to leave the network. Since leaving and processing our experiences with others, it's become evident that hundreds, if not thousands, of people have been negatively impacted by their time in a network church. It's not uncommon for young people to come into a network church as a Christian only to be convinced by the pastors that they weren't really true believers all along. They are convinced to become resaved and rebaptized. Once joining, members are expected to give the majority of their time and resources to the church. There is belief in an extra biblical doctrine of obeying your leader in all things. This has come to mean that pastors and leaders tell their followers how to live their lives and expect them to follow without question. Those who do question leaders are pushed out and ostracized. In many cases, the pastors advise their followers to cut ties with friends and family members. This sadly results in many broken relationships. Anyone who leaves is also treated as a pariah. This sort of heavy-handed discipleship model in churches has been seen in churches throughout history and was previously called the shepherding movement in the 1970s and 80s. This movement was resoundingly rebuked by Christians around the world as a dangerous control of individuals. Over the years, we watched young college men be recruited into leadership roles and as staff pastors. Many of these young leaders were placed into positions of responsibility after being a Christian for only a short time. This violated the scripture's warnings about not making a new believer a pastor or a leader. The organizational systems of the network are set up as a top-down model with Steve Morgan at the top, then a group called the Network Leadership Team. Under them, the local church pastors, and under the local church pastors, the small group leaders. The network leadership team consists of men who were hand-selected, trained, and placed into paid positions by Morgan himself. They are beholden to him. It's enmeshed and resulting in conflicts of interest. There's bias, and they obviously are loyal to the man who hired them. As president of the network, Steve Morgan is the ultimate leader, and pastors refer to him as an apostle. There are no checks and balances in place to regulate power in this organization. Local church lead pastors will try to convince you that they are a local autonomous church and they are not directed by the network or its leaders. But don't be fooled by their rhetoric. The local church bylaws acquiesce decision-making to the network leaders. And unbeknownst to many church members, all local churches send 5% of their local giving to a network fund that is controlled by Steve Morgan. Local churches use teaching materials from the network, and the pastors are coached and mentored regularly by network leaders who act as regional overseers. There are regular network training materials, retreats, pastor meetings, and so on. It's disingenuous for local pastors to say that they are autonomous. Given what has happened, network churches have become an unsafe place. In the past few years, many people left network churches for a variety of reasons. A group of former members began to speak out about their negative experiences, resulting in numerous stories, publications, and websites devoted to warning people. I encourage everyone to carefully read about other people's experiences before getting involved. My wife and I remain Christian believers and are committed to engagement with a local church. We implore everyone still inside a network church and those considering joining to carefully consider the issues at hand. If you're looking for a church home and are considering a network church, I would encourage you to carefully seek wise counsel and read as much information as you can. You should speak directly with a trusted Christian leader who is outside of the network. Share all the information available and ask them for their wisdom and advice. There are many excellent and safe churches in your community, and I encourage you to carefully consider other options than a network church. I want to thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best as you seek to follow God.